Welcome to another video where I try to compare the DT1770s to other headphones, reference class or not reference class. My first video about the comparison between the 1770 and every other headphone was the SHP 9500 from Philips. Somewhat surprising, somewhat not surprising. Then yesterday's video was between the 1770 and the monoprice M1060Cs, meaning the closed back version. And I wasn't personally surprised by the result, but perhaps if you watched that video, maybe some of you were. Today, I'm doing another video of the 1770 versus another reference class headphone. This time, much closer to the $600 price tag of the 1770. Now, so far what I'm trying to do is I have started from the bottom of the barrel. I mean, the 9500s are not bottom of the barrel. That's not what I mean, but the lowest price headphones I could find that could, I think, unreasonably, but still reasonably unreasonably, compete with the 1770. Then I went to the M1060Cs because they were much more expensive than the 9500, but were still, quote unquote, reference class headphone. But for today, I figured I would leapfrog. I would leapfrog and just go to the other extreme. Not a real extreme, but closer to the 1770. And actually a little bit over than what the 1770 cost. Because I want to see if I hear a difference between the 1770 at $600 brand new, okay, versus another pair of headphones that cost just a little bit more brand new. So the headphone that I'm going to compare with today is the Denon D5200. These are amazing headphones. I love them. They have a lot of detail. They have good bass, though not overwhelming bass like the D2000s. These are true luxury headphones for $700. This is the price that you would have to pay for a Focal Elex. The D5200s are fully closed back. They have wood housing, well constructed, blah, 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 blah. They are made of 50 millimeter drivers, and these are not planar magnetic. This is not a T1 or Tesla driver of any sort. This is just a dynamic driver that Denon uses. Now, if you know anything about Denon and their history, Denon basically used to license drivers from Fostex and just put their names on them. Fostex and Denon don't, as far as I know, work as much hand in hand as they used to. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Again, the song that I've been comparing is Superposition by Young the Giant. I am now getting sick and tired of the song because I keep listening to it because of these tests, but it is absolutely necessary that we do that. Okay, I have the 5200s on my head plugged into the JDS Labs Element DAC amp. I'm not quite sure what the max volume for the 5200 is, so I'm going to just start at 9 o'clock and then move move the amp volume higher as necessary. Here we go. String instrument is very clear. The bass impact has more substance than the 1770. Overall clear so far. The vocal is less smooth than I recall it being on the M1060s, but definitely not ear piercing, not sibilant. Still pretty even, pretty smooth. Though I would say the 1060s were smoother. Now all the instruments' vocals are in now. Good separation of all the instruments. No sibilants. The bass is in the background It's not overwhelming anything else. I mean, it's close to overwhelming. It just keeps it down, suppressed just enough. Again, the vocal is pretty smooth. No graininess. Now we're getting to the point where there are multiple vocalists, and I want to hear for the separation. Yeah, I hear multiple vocalists. It's not as differentiated as it was in the M1060, but at higher volume, I can definitely tell there is more than one vocalist. And I hear two, at least, especially at this part. There's a little bit of reverberation in the ear cups with the bass, and just a slight bit, and that makes these headphones fun. And now there are multiple vocalists, and I know there are multiple vocalists. They all have different pitches, different tonality in their voices. All the whole frequency range, very smooth. I pick up a lot of detail from the 5200s. Is there a headphone out there that I have that would pick up more detail? Yes. If there's more detail to pick up in this song, I have headphones that will definitely do that. But as of right now, I feel as if that the 5200s are overall smooth, not as smooth as the M1060s as I recall them from yesterday. They are detailed, no sibilance. Bass is slightly boosted in comparison to the M1060 and the 1770, but we're going to obviously try on the 1770 in just a moment. Overall, it's a very, very good headphone. Is it a true reference class headphone? I don't know. Reference class headphone, in my opinion, doesn't boost any particular frequency. It just gives you all the detail that it possibly can as the frequencies come, like as it's recorded. Denons are known for boosting a bit of their bass. They're known for their warmth signature. There's certainly a bit of warmth, not as much as the 2000s. The 5200s are not as warm as the 2000s. They're more reference class. They're very enjoyable. Let's switch to the 1770. I have cords going everywhere, so this is a little tricky. Okay, 1770s on my head. Sound isolation is probably a little bit better on the 1770. Okay, I'm going to start at noon, and here we go. Interesting. That's strange. I think the 5200s are a little bit clearer. Yeah. Now, right after hearing the 5200s, this sounds a little veiled, a little cloudy. Moving it to 1 o'clock. Once again, the voice is not harsh, it's not sibilant, but it gets close. Yeah, like at this point when he says stars, very close to ear piercing, just suppressed enough. So multiple vocalists in. I just don't think there's enough separation between the vocalists. I know that there's more than one there. I just can't tell. It all flattens out. Yeah, the bass response is very flat on that 1770. There's no real warmth to these headphones. There's no warmth. In a few seconds, we'll get all the vocals and all the instruments back in. And I'm going to be listening for the vocal separation. Yeah, I can. So around 1 minute 55 seconds, multiple vocalists say, I want you, you want me. And in the 5200s, I can tell there's two, minimum. In the 1060s, I heard there were at least two. In the 1770, it all just sounds like it's one person. It's really disappointing. It's not quite like it's an echo. It's just as if there's one guy who recorded his voice and then recorded his voice again and just lined up the frequency, the peaks, and now you get the same voice. Does that kind of make sense? It's like they copied and pasted his voice. So there's his voice and then his voice on top of his voice. I don't know. There's no separation. About 2 o'clock. Okay. Okay. All right. So, once again, the 1770s, they're clear, but, and I'm going to do this again, but they seem more veiled than the 5200. The 5200 seemed to be clearer throughout the song. The 1770, in comparison, there seems to be kind of a glaze over the entire song, as if I'm looking across the street through a window that's got condensation on it. All right, so it's not a clear picture from inside of the house. Whereas with the 5200s, it's clear, and I find that really strange because I know that the 5200s were designed to have more warmth to it. They have a little bit of a boost in the bass response. Denon make great headphones. I love the signature the Denons have in all of their headphones, and they all seem to be a little different from each other. To say that the Denons are true reference class headphones is a misnomer. They're not true reference class headphones. They are very clear, but they also have a kind of a boost in certain frequencies. So they're enjoyable reference class headphones. You can use the Denons for mixing songs if you wanted to, but you could be just as happy watching a movie or just listening to your favorite playlist with the 5200s. The 1770, I'm still struggling to find out what these are for. I have no idea. You wouldn't really want these to mix because if you have multiple vocalists and you try to figure out if the pitches are right, how are you going to do that? These things simply don't provide that sort of depth. There's no soundstage. Now, with the 5200s, is there more soundstage? Yes, Not as much as with the 1060s. The 1060s actually gave me a little bit more soundstage than the 5200s. But the 5200s give me more soundstage than the 7200s. I'm not the 7200s, excuse me. From the 1770s. All right, so let's go back to the beginning, and I want to hear the first 30 seconds when there's the hit of the drum at the very beginning, and then there's the vocals. And what I'm going to listen for is the bass response and the vocals as they come in. I'm going to start at 1 o'clock on the 1770s. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to switch to the 5200. I'm going to start at noon. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, bass is so much better. Huh. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, the bass is a lot better on the 5200s than on the 1770. Again, there's that slight boost in the bass, which makes it enjoyable, but it's not overwhelming for the rest of the frequencies. Two, the 1770s get so close to being too trebly, too peaky, too much going on at the higher frequency, and they just keep it just suppressed. Like we were talking about the ceiling in the previous videos. You have, let's say you have a house and there's a 10-foot ceiling. That 10-foot ceiling designates the best headphone in the world that gives you everything, including all the treble. I would say the 1770s are like 9 feet. Okay, floor to top, 9 feet. So it takes you just underneath the treble, peaky, ear piercing. The 5200s are probably like a 7 or an 8. If I had to give a random description, right? I mean, it's not really random because I'm using the scale now. So a 7 or an 8, maybe an 8, which means that it's a lot easier to listen to the 5200s than it is the 1770. Am I missing out on anything with, between that 1 foot gap? In other words, the extra treble and higher frequency response that the 1770 give me on this song, is that giving me more detail? The answer is no. It's not actually giving me more detail. It's just slightly, it's getting close for it being uncomfortable to listen to. Now you might say, well, it's just this song, play another song. I'm not going to play another song because I've been using the song. I'm not going to play another song. I want to know what the deal is with this thing. I have a song. I picked a song. This is what I'm going to go with. And I'm not getting more detail with an extra bump in the treble response in the 1770. In the same sense, I'm not getting more detail with the extra bump in response in the bass on the 5200. It just makes it a little bit more fun. The extra bump in the treble doesn't make the 1770s more fun. They fatigue the ear faster than the 5200s would. Now, 3, there's a low rumbling in the music at the beginning. When the drums come in and the vocals start and the strings are playing, there's a low rumbling in the background that I hadn't noticed initially. And that rumbling pervades through at least the first 30 seconds. And it's a pleasant rumbling. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna have the 5200s on my head, and I'm gonna tell you when the rumbling comes in. Now, there's some sort of instrument that has a little bit of a rumble. And I don't know what it is, but it's so pleasant. It's part of this song. And I didn't notice it before. So I'm going to switch to the 1770 and I'm going to listen for that rumble. And so the 5200s were at 1 o'clock. I'm going to keep it 1 o'clock on the 1770. Here I go. I'm going to take it up to 2 o'clock. Yes, I do hear the little rumble. Less pronounced, hard to find. I'm going to try again. I do hear the rumble, but it's very, it could almost be muted. It's at 3 o'clock, by the way, the amp is. Yeah. See, what drowns out that little rumble in the 1770 is that it's the boosted treble response. And so I completely, in all these tests I've done, how many times I've listened to this song on the 1770, I've always missed it up until now. The only reason I noticed is because the 5200s had that kind of slightly boosted bass. And so it was more apparent to me. It wasn't as apparent on the 1060 because the 1060, as I said before, probably has the same amount of bass as the 1770. And I didn't notice it on the 9500 because the 9500 has really loosey-goosey bass response. Fun, but really loosey-goosey, so it all kind of got muddled together. But the 5200, that slight, very slight bass boost brings that thing up just enough for me to hear it, but it doesn't overwhelm anything else. I can't say the same thing about the treble response and the boost. Yes, okay, so the 1770 is supposed to be flat, neutral, right? But I feel as if there is a boost of some sort because it just drowns out that the bass, at least the mid bass where that rumbling is coming from. Maybe a sub bass, I don't know where it is. Let me hear it again. Yeah, so when the string instruments come in, whether it's a banjo or whatever the hell this thing is, it overwhelms the bass. Is that how it was supposed to be recorded? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't think anybody can really tell you unless they're the person who mastered and recorded and distributed this particular song. All I can say is that the string instruments overwhelm the bass response on this song with a 1770. It's much more pleasurable, and I actually get the detail on the 5200. Now, am I losing out on detail on the 5200 without that kind of extra treble response? No, I'm not. Not on this song. I'm not getting anything else. I'm not picking anything else up. So you could say, once again, as I said like a few minutes ago, why don't you pick another song? Which song? Which song should I pick? There are millions of songs out there. Which song should I pick that's going to be a fair representation for all the headphones? I have no idea. And nobody can really tell you. They can just pick a random song. They can pick a song that's well-known. They can pick a song that's not well-known. They can pick a song that has all instruments, all vocals, whatever. They can go down the line. There's a plethora of songs from which to pick. I picked Superposition because originally in my sound test, Superposition seemed as if the song that the 1770 responded best to. And so that I wanted to give the 1770 kind of a leg up in the sense that I wanted to provide a song from my test playlist that performed well on the 1770. So it's basically fighting on home turf, and it's still losing. It's not winning any of these battles. Okay, so with the 9500 it won because the 9500 is not a reference class headphone. It never was marketed as one. But between the 5200 and the 95 and the 1770, which is a better reference class headphone, assuming that we just take the manufacturer's word that these are reference class headphones? 5200. The 5200 beat out the 1770. If you get it at full price, brand new, $600 for the 1770 or the $700 for the 5200, save up for the extra 100. Get the 5200 instead. Why? Because the 5200, although they have a slightly less lower treble response, in my opinion, and a slightly boosted bass response, it sounds as good as a 1770 with respect to the detail. I'm getting actual soundstage, though not as much as I did on the 1060s that I remember from yesterday. They allow me to listen to the song without having my ears nearly pierced, unlike the 1770. And on top of that, the 5200 is an easy headphone to listen to. Listen to it for detail, listen to it for fun. Whereas with the 1770, I cannot imagine sitting down and watching a movie with the 1770 for various reasons. The fact that the clamping force is too tight, the ear pads are not particularly comfortable, that there's that treble response that gets nearly ear piercing. And none of that would make me want to allow me to enjoy whatever I'm watching. It's just going to have me on edge. Whereas with the 5200, I don't even have to worry about that. What is reference class? I mean, all these tests, I'm going to keep continuing to do tests. There are a lot of other headphones that are going to be tested with the 1770s on this song. What is reference class? You know, you can go with the definition that manufacturers give you about reference class. You can go with the definition that audiophiles give you about reference class, or you can go with your own personal definition about what reference class is. You know what? You get to decide what you want to do. You're the one that's going to listen to these headphones. If you define reference class as headphones that give you as much soundstage as possible, they give you as much detail as possible, and they give you flat response throughout the frequency, then that's a reference class headphone for you. If, however, you say that a reference class headphone gives me soundstage and clarity, then that's a reference class for you. If you say that you don't care about bass and you prefer for the bass to be present but not in any way accentuated, and you want the treble so that you can hear the detail, then that's reference class for you. You get to define what reference class is because you're the one that has to listen to the song. You're the one that has to listen to the headphones. You're the one that's going to have to buy it. Don't let anybody else tell you what reference is supposed to be. It's a general guideline, but you get to decide because it's your money. Now, in my opinion, a reference class headphone is a headphone that gives you the soundstage, it gives you the clarity, it gives you all the frequencies, and yet it doesn't suppress the detail. I am not getting all the details on the 1770 because when the vocalists come in, I can't tell. I know there's more than one, I just can't tell on the 1770. I could tell on the M1060, I can tell on the Denon. For me, for my definition of reference class, the 1770s simply don't live up. Now, Beyerdynamic may have a different version of what reference class is, and that's fine. Just tell me what it is. Explain to me what you believe a reference class is. Well, it's a 1770. They believe that this is what reference class is. But I've heard the 1990. I have the 1990. I love the 1990. I think they're fantastic headphones. I think the 1990s are worth, well, I'm not going to say $700 or $600. They're not. But they are definitely worth $400 or $500 compared to the 1770s, which are, I would say the 1770s are worth half the price that they're being charged for, brand new. All right, so that was another quick comparison between two reference class headphones. And I am not going to be uploading any videos, probably not, for the next couple of days, probably 2 to 3 days. Hopefully this has been of some help. If it hasn't, if you would like me to do some different testing, let me know. I'll try to accommodate when I can. And I appreciate you watching my channel. I appreciate your feedback and any positive critique that you can possibly give me to help improve and provide additional information for you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.